Welcome back to another episode of School Briefs. Claire, I was touched that when we first jumped on, you remarked about the artwork on the wall.
Yeah,
We
yeah, yeah.
moved in, and so the house is starting to feel a little bit more like a home.
It is looking very homely. Whereas I'm going like this because I'm trying not to get blinded by there's this beautiful sun coming in. But every now and again when I look in the wrong direction, I get absolutely blinded by it. But I'm
Yeah.
not complaining. It's beautiful out there.
Yes, Palmerston North is also very sunny right now.
Does the sun get to the regions, Liam? Oh,
Uh, Honestly, it's one of the secrets, but there is a real microclimate around Palmerston North, and it is quite often referred to as the Hawaii of New Zealand for those of us that live here.
oh, sheesh. You better
Mm.
deliver if I ever come on a road trip.
Road trip. We should talk more about that at the end of this.
Absolutely.
Oh, but and that's quite a nice segue because
Into road shows?
road show because of the word road. You've been at the road show this week.
I certainly did. I had the absolute honour of attending the Curriculum and Assessment Roadshow for Leaders on Thursday at Ellerslie Racecourse. Once I got through the tunnel that you have to now go through from the car park to get across to the racecourse. Oh my goodness, Liam, what can I say?
I thought you were going to say once I got through the metal detector. Oh, they're taking security really seriously.
They might when it comes to me. But no, actually, it was one of those days where it was sort of like, I was sort of hoping that I might actually get some new learning, might hear some insights. Whew, it was an insight. Well, it wasn't an insight-free day, actually, because I joined a few dots in my head by the end of it. And it's actually led to a blog post that I'll be, a Substack that I'll publish tomorrow morning where things are falling into place in my brain. But coming back to the roadshow, my goodness, what a great big fat waste of time and money. Like I looked around that room and there would have been hundreds of leaders out of their school for the day, and gathered together to hear pretty much what was in all of our documentation and emails we've already received from the minister already, and the information we've had from the ministry as well. And it just blew me away that they'd go to this sort of effort to get a whole lot of people together, a bit of a sort of a song and a dance, sort of trying to reassure people that things are on track and explain them. Really, I don't think we got anything new from the day whatsoever. I got really frustrated a couple of times because, we had some great practitioners on stage, good people from NZQA, some great people like Pete from Manurewa and Steve from Up at Whangaparoa. But, we also had different points on the stage when we had a panel member at one point talk about these reforms and say it was an opportunity for our schools to review our programs and the performance of our teachers. It's like, I just sat there going, what's your job then if it's not that? Like, it was sort of like, how are these reforms an opportunity to review our programs and the performance of our teachers? Isn't that what we do, in terms of our professional growth cycle and our professional inquiries and our school-wide inquiries that we do on a yearly basis? And I actually had a real moment where I did wonder, and I'm just sorry, this is completely out of left field. But one of the things I'm wondering is that the principals that are close to the minister and the reforms, I wonder what a different experience would be having if they were the kind of principals that really saw themselves as curriculum leaders and leaders of learning. Like, I feel like quite often when you've got really big school principals, and there's some big generalizations that I'm making here, that you end up having quite sort of business leader style principals who are overseeing, a massive, massive school and system. And so they tend to be a little bit more hands off in terms of the actual nuts and bolts of the teaching and learning. I don't know about your principal, Liam, but one of the things that I love as a principal is seeing myself as the leader of learning in the school. And I am right down there supporting my deputy principals and my middle leaders with the development of curriculum and what the pedagogy looks like in the classroom. So, I sort of did have a little light bulb moment where I thought, actually, there's a lot of this thinking informed because the voices the minister is listening to are not necessarily people that see themselves as leaders of learning. Anyway, that was just a light bulb moment. All I can say, I'd love to hear from people below under this that went to the Roadshow in Auckland and other places around New Zealand. Did you learn anything new? Did you come away from the day thinking, yep, now I understand why we're doing these reforms, and I feel reassured? Because I struggled. Maybe it's because I'm someone that likes to read all the bits of bloody policy and paper that comes through my inbox, but I struggled to find anything gained from that day at all, which is a real shame because when you look at the quality of people that were in the room, even the quality of people that were on the stage, it felt like a real waste of time and resource and money. Hmm.
Oh gosh, Claire, there was so much
Oh,
there.
sorry, that was a bit dark, wasn't it?
Often when we talk, you mention one thing and it just ping pongs into lots of different spaces.
Yeah.
And like that kind of like uh, diverse job description that is now a principal's one is something that I spend lots of time thinking about. Particularly around the way that under Tomorrow's Schools we've kind of just walked away from the core job of a principal to be professional leader, unless a principal is consciously making that a core part of their job.
Yeah.
And we've actually seen the role of deputy principal become the area of focus that a principal doesn't want to have as their core job.
Yeah.
And
Structures are really interesting when you talk to principals and their senior leadership structures.
yeah, and it's one of those things where I just really wish that the previous Labor government had the courage to really go after some of those recommendations in the Tomorrow's Schools review. And I think I may have been one of a very small group of people that actually liked the idea of a kind of 5-year fixed term contract for a principal.
Yeah.
Uh, Not because
Certainly
I
does
thought,
interesting things in Canada. I mean, that they have that, and then they also have high performing principals often get. And I don't know if it's still it might actually change from like area to area in Canada, but I remember going to visit the self-directed learning schools, and they had situations where if you were making really good changes in a school, you might get put in a school that was struggling next, just to support them. So not only did you have that limited tenure, you also were potentially placed in schools that needed you as well.
yeah, and I really like the idea that it would be taking a kind of systems look at where we needed particular skill sets.
Yeah.
Because I could see that playing out really well in a community like Palmerston North, where it wasn't just a principal getting a permanent job and staying in the same school for 20 years. You could use all sorts of criteria to work out where is that particular skill set best placed. And where I would see huge value in it right now is the current landscape because we've got so many inexperienced principals
Yeah,
across the
huge amount of beginning principles. Yeah.
being able to kind of better deploy experienced principals would just be hugely exciting. Um, anyway, that was a long way off.
Yeah, we digress. How unusual.
I mean, I guess there's a kind of challenge for like opposition parties in the lead up to this election is to actually talk about some of the systemic changes that we need to make to tomorrow's schools. Because
Yeah.
it's looking at the stuff Erica's proposing, she hasn't really gone near school structure. We've seen in one part but then the sector reform bill, which just looks to be politicising of kind of the wider instruments within the education sector, like the Teaching Council, like ERO,
Yeah.
and school structures themselves. I mean, you could argue that it's quite smart politics because the second you start talking about structures that affect local schools, you actually need to be able to deliver a really nuanced conversation, and that doesn't seem to be her strength.
Mm. What was our next topic? We were going to go on to.
Sorry, just before you do that, when you go into the roadshow, do you
Yes.
consciously think about where you're going to sit? Like, were you at the front of the room or the back of the room?
It was quite funny because I came in late and so I missed the first Lorraine Hammond the first session, and I came in and I was sort of standing at the very back of the room, and I passed by a ministry employee who looked at me nervously, said, "The minister's about to arrive." I said, "Do you want me to greet her at the door? I can greet her at the door." Just because I'm cheeky. And interestingly, I don't. But I think my DPs think of that on my behalf because what I discovered, they had got there in the morning and they had got a table front and centre. So I got to sit in the very front row in the middle, which was fantastic because it meant I could be particularly engaged and listen very closely to all of the presentations on stage. I'm often a front and centre person. That probably doesn't surprise people because I'm a bit obnoxious and annoying. But no, I actually like to be able to. I often hope, and this was actually one of my real frustrations on the day. I love it when presentations and things like that become a conversation, when we're actually, people are asked questions and we can actually have a bit of a discussion that takes place. What was really frustrating about this is it was so bloody locked down. So there was clearly not going to be any opportunity for anyone to speak up from the floor. But worse than that, the only way you could submit a question was through this app that they had designed and developed. But when they came up onto the panel with the questions, they came out with a pre-printed set of questions. I don't mean to be rude, but I'm pretty sure they weren't even from that day because quite often they started with someone complimenting the reforms and then asking a question. I was like, did someone really write that in the app? I don't know. So it was such a locked down experience. It was so managed. And that was really interesting. It said a lot about, what they wanted to get out of the day and what they did not want to have happen on the day, which I thought was really, really interesting.
Well, I also think it suggests that they're aware that there's a kind of growing gap between what the kind of professional voice coming through is and what the ministry have been told that they have to deliver. But it does leave a bit of a sour taste in your mouth when you're actually seeing kind of deliberate ways to kind of stop questions that might critique the direction coming forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, can we talk? I don't know if this is the order we're going to go, but can we talk about the property announcement that happened earlier this week?
Come on.
I don't know if you saw, and I don't have the evidence sitting in front of me that this was the case, but there has been an assertion that protocol was abandoned and that when ministry, so we know that the minister and Prime Minister did a stand up and talked about an investment in property. And that is fantastic. We always love an investment in property and infrastructure. In my mind, that should be business as usual. We should be investing in our schools. I don't actually necessarily think it should be, something that we have a stand up about, that we're actually providing schools with what they need. But there was an interesting assertion, and I'd be interested if anyone actually has the specifics and evidence as an example. So I'm only putting out there as something that was claimed, is that when the ministry officers went to contact the schools to let them know that they had been granted properties and repairs and building, they discovered that the local national MPs had jumped the gun and had already contacted the schools.
Trying to claim a bit of credit. Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. So, very allegedly. I'm interested. If that's the case, that seems bonkers. Surely that's not even allowed, is it? I would have thought there was quite clear guidance around that stuff. And again, this is hearsay at this stage. I'm not saying anything more than that. But if anyone was one of those schools and heard about their property prior to the official lines, let us know, because if that is the case, that's a real ground for concern.
Well, I think at best it'd be a grey area, but the one that would be, and you understand why politically there's a kind of wanting to kind of show that you're an MP that's delivered to your local area.
Yeah.
And I guess though the one I'd be real interested in is if any National Party candidates had been given that information, because I think
along with their pencil cases that they were dropping off.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. I'll tell you what though,
here's some information and some branded pencil cases. Off you go.
And it's just kind of like conveniently delivered bags 6 months out from an election. Hey, you were wanting to talk about phase 5 because that's rolled.
Yes.
Which tranche is rolled out?
Yeah, just a reminder that we've got phase 5 subjects out, the second tranche out for consultation. Really tight timeframes again. That ends in the holidays. Encourage you to get amongst it. There's a link on Tahurangi. There is also our fabulous Dr. Claire Coleman, before she heads off overseas, she is doing a whiplash quick run through all of those subject areas. So you can see that here on the AEC Substack, and you can see the links to the live. I think it's on our socials as well. So I know it's dig deep, people. I know it's bloody hard at this time of the term to find the bandwidth and find the energy to engage with this, but I've said it once and I'll say it 1,000 times. They are very good at claiming that silence is agreement. So, what is it? Acquiescence, whatever the word is. That actually, that if you don't say anything, it's because you're happy with what's been presented. So please make sure you take a time to look at those subjects. Remember, the expectation is they're mandated to be taught as a whole subject. So think about the time that you've got available for each of those subjects, and if you could meaningfully teach it and doesn't meet the needs of your context and your young person. A post that I'm writing up today that will be published tomorrow morning looks at this very issue. This drives me nuts, this idea that standardization is the same as having high standards, or that, equality of opportunity is going to somehow magically and have equitable outcomes. It's such a load of nonsense. And this fixation on everyone doing the same is just going to be such a big waste of time and money. But yeah, so when you're looking at your specialist subjects, think of the young people who are sitting in front of you now and say, actually, is this going to be the right curriculum for them? I've got no problem with the curriculum. I do think we need subject curriculums, and absolutely great that they're being developed by our local experts. What I'm worried about and what I'm starting to hear through the traps is that even the expert writers are actually trying to write quite broad, open curriculums. Then they get sent in, and then what comes out is a lot tighter and a lot narrower. So, you're not necessarily seeing in these drafts what the subject experts might have wanted. You might be in some subjects. I can't speak for all of them, but I'm certainly starting to hear rumbles and slight frustrations from subject experts involved in the writing, that their attempts to try and keep it pretty open and broad is getting tightened up in the drafting process. So make sure you get amongst it. Make sure you give some really robust feedback. My worry is that all of this is about mandated whole subjects. I don't have a problem with the curriculum. Certainly don't have a problem with senior subject curriculum development. It's a great thing to be invested in. And of course, we need to have a curriculum that we're assessing. Like in the past, the assessments have driven the curriculum. I absolutely applaud the fact that we're developing a curriculum that will then inform assessment. So please don't get me wrong in that sense. But please engage with the Phase 5 consultation as best you can.
Hey, the other thing that dropped this morning was a Sunday read.
Oh, yes, yes.
And obviously there's been a huge number of contributors, but it is talking about some of the stuff going on in initial teacher education. And it was quite a good piece because I think it kind of lays out the politics of kind of everything that's happening in initial teacher education right now. Scholars will be aware of the changes that have come about through the sector reform bill, which I think is coming up for its third reading. But in preparation for that, the piece spoke about an ITE conference, which must be a real blast, that has happened in the last couple of days.
Don't say that. It's very important. Would have been great. But go back to your point.
No. Well, I guess it was less about initial teacher education being important and more about some of the content there, because what they were told was that effectively new teachers need to come out with a delivery model of at least 80% of the day in explicit teaching, and so again we are just seeing every single part of the education landscape being funneled into this kind of very narrow view of what good teaching and learning looks like. And I think is that the whole science of learning is going to be a lot wider than just what we've seen come through the English curriculum. And so this idea of like explicit instruction for things like social sciences, the arts, is just
what we need is some lots and lots of lectures. That's
Yeah.
what we need. Some more
But
direct. I mean, direct instruction is important. Like, let's be clear, it's really important. But they can't go on about cognitive load and then say the answer is that kids need to have direct instruction 80% of the time. I mean,
yeah,
there's so much evidence to suggest that we time out young people time out, anyone times out very quickly, and that actually it's got to be used sparsely and really effectively. What an
yeah.
absolute crock.
And the mask slip, though, because at one point they said that it's perfectly acceptable for people to be working off a script. And I mean, that is just absolutely shocking. The piece, though, did go on to talk about recent history around internationally where our initial teacher education has been seen to be really successful. And I don't come into this saying that actually the current landscape is great for initial teacher education. I think that there's some real kind of touch and feel at the grassroots level around more work needing to be done.
Oh, and that work piece has been gone for years. Like, I remember back in the day when it was Education Council, there was the report by Graham Aiken and Claire Cinema. There's been reports after reports about how we can, again, like everything else, how we can strengthen systems and and this idea of if there needs to be a more of a set curriculum for our ITE providers. But honestly, what does it suggest? Talking about scripts,
Yeah,
talking about 80% direct instruction.
but the
I mean,
challenge.
I guess if you've got really great big stuffed curriculum, you've got to do all direct instruction to you because you don't actually have time to engage with the learning in any meaningful way. Poor bloody young people is all I can say.
But also, it puts on the chopping block key competencies or any notion that kids can actually learn from one another through experiential learning. It's really frustrating. But if you look at it through the eyes of this government, the TELUS report highlighted that there's two areas where we do really well in initial teacher education. One is through supporting students' social and emotional development. And the second one is around teaching in multicultural and multilingual settings.
Yeah.
And so where we are good in the international studying are those two, but actually those two are probably the areas that the current government thinks that
Yeah, they've tried to I mean, they're squashing it, aren't they?
yeah.
Like that's the stuff that they're trying to. I mean, an overloaded curriculum and that much direct instruction is just going to squeeze the bloody joy out of teaching, and it squeezes the joy out of being a teacher. I mean, I was, you know, people are often surprised. I'm a Rangitoto College girl, like the minister, and I went to Rangitoto College. I taught there for my first 7 years as well. It's a phenomenal school. We know it's huge now. It's the size of a city. But the thing I learned as a beginning teacher back in 97, 98 was how to be a learning designer. It was a real joy. And I learned to get to know my students and to create the most. Like, I had an absolute blast as an English and a drama teacher, designing learning that was relevant to the young people in front of me, that was as much about them having fun in the classroom. Like, we got phenomenal results as well. I remember one year, I think I had an English class where we got pretty much every single student got scholarship in English and that was the year that we did like Great Gatsby and Seven Form, and I taught them how to do the Charleston and we played dress ups. Like, there is such a place for play and creativity and joy, and that's the classroom. I mean, that's what I'm still trying to protect and encourage at Albany Senior High School. But my God, what is the vision they've got for classes? What do they see when they talk about 80% direct instruction and having a script? Like, were these people that came up with these ideas, were they like traumatized by school as a child or something? Do we need to put them through some sort of counseling to, deal with whatever issues they have that make them think this is a good idea?
I think it's about
I'm blown away. I'm sorry, I'm blown away.
I think it is about the assumptions that they come into education policy with, specifically around teachers' work and
Yeah.
the idea that if you can't scrutinise every single second of what a teacher's doing, therefore you don't know what they're doing, and therefore they're doing stuff that isn't great, and therefore the only policy lens in which you should be viewing these things through is how can we kind of micromanage and control everything that teachers do, which is why we start to see scripts. But also, I
We're
don't think we should
deprofessionalizing the system at pace, Liam.
But I don't think we should dismiss the role of edutech within the space,
Mm.
because they do want to see a world in which AI is the first and foremost planning tool. And unless you're delivering a knowledge based curriculum, trying to produce AI scripts is really difficult when
But
you've got
I'm sorry,
part of
that's
what we
not. I mean, I'm a massive user of like I use AI on a daily basis. I absolutely do. It's my agent that I get to help me do all sorts of different things throughout the day. The idea that you have to do standardized knowledge rich learning, like if anything, I think AI is the key to us personalizing and multi-leveling and meeting young people where they're at. Like we can flip the script, and actually AI is now the time where we could, it's also the time where we could be doing really robust internal assessments. I've long harped on to NZQA about the fact that we could have a real time, platform and mechanism for peer assessment and moderation, that we could be building knowledge banks that would enable teachers to be able to get
Mhm.
their tasks critiqued, that would enable us to design our own subjects, and get those critiqued. Like the bonkers thing is, AI is actually the tool that enables us to become more creative, more personalized, and they're using it for the opposite.
Yeah, not if you're trying to view education through the lens of standardization and consistency,
Makes me sad.
because in that world, it is about using AI to produce similar scripts for learning that are just rolled out across every class. I mean, people talk about Nick Gibb talking about wanting to be able to know at 10 o'clock every Tuesday morning what page of the textbook his kids were on, because that was kind of his belief as a Minister of Education around
Oh,
how
and
he
that comes back to the spend review. I'm writing a post up now. It's got the spend. It's the UK. It's the review of the UK reforms that was published at the end of last year. It is so clear in its findings in terms of the fact that actually standardizing everything and doing everything that we're doing, looking to do at the moment, did nothing for closing the divide, and did nothing for meeting the needs of our most at risk, neurodivergent learners. Golly, gosh, it makes me sad and angry. But, at the end of the day, as long as we've got self-governing schools, I don't know about you, Liam, but we will ensure that the joy is maintained. The joy of learning is maintained.
Yeah, that
Oh, talk
um
about learning.
hold up. Their idea of kind of misusing the word equity
Mm.
to actually mean equality. We hear it all the time around how they've delivered every single kid a maths textbook, and therefore that's equity.
Equal
Um,
opportunities now. They'll be fine.
and
Doesn't matter what's going on
um,
at home.
and it does highlight that from this government, they're really uninterested with any of the kind of conditions that students are experiencing coming into the school gates.
Yeah.
And that's why we were wanting to spend some more time talking about how education fits in within that kind of larger ecosystem. And that might mean that we might need to talk to a more diverse range of speakers.
Absolutely. And that's why here at AEC, you're going to be able to get learning on tap. So we have a bit of a different initiative coming up in the lead up to the election. One of the things, Liam and I love chatting so much. We want to chat to more people. So one of the ideas we've got is that in the lead up to the election, we'd love to have conversations with people from across different industries, across different sectors, across different areas, that are all to do with our young people and what's happening for them, whether it be in the areas of housing, justice, health, whatever it is. If there's topics you'd like us to cover, if there's people you'd like us to talk to, our aim is to do a series of out of cycle learning on tap podcasts. It looks like we've got our first one lined up this week with a pediatrician from Starship Hospital. But we're looking at having a whole lot of really interesting conversations, and maybe some of them might even happen out there in the real world, might they, Liam? What's the plan there?
We want to explore the idea of going to a pub and talking about education and yeah, I mean,
It's a really clever name, Learning on Tap at the
yeah,
pub.
I wouldn't say the idea exclusively started around should we go to the bar and talk about education. But yeah, I mean, I guess it does want to highlight this idea of kind of some of the best conversations that you have with your colleagues are the kind of informal ones over a drink. And so trying to kind of replicate that idea is where this all came from. But certainly very keen, particularly in the lead up to the election,
Yeah,
that we actually do what we can to highlight that education isn't just this kind of siloed piece of taxpayer spending. What we actually need to do is flip the script and start to think about the journey of a child and making sure all of those parts
all
of
of the things
their
that
lives.
impact them. And
Uh,
because that's what we deal with on a daily basis in our schools, isn't it?
and if that is the goal of improving learning outcomes for learners, then actually we need to be treating them as kind of humans and all aspects of things that make up their lives.
So we can think of it as a little bit of a touch of backbenchers with Liam and Claire at a pub near you. So if you'd like to host us, maybe you've got contacts and you've got a particular pub in mind. We're going to try and get out to a few physical locations to do this. And other weeks it will simply be either a Substack live or a recorded Substack with one of our friends from different sectors. But if there's a person you think we should speak with, maybe it's you. Let us know. If there's a topic you'd like us to cover, let us know. But also if there's a location or a spot where you think it would lend itself to a bit of learning on tap, make sure you reach out, get in touch with us here because we'd love to come to a town near you.
Yeah,
Maybe. Hey, at least a
just
couple of times.
just in closing, a couple of things heading into this week. One is that it is scrutiny week.
Yep.
And so I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there. But the other one that I don't think people will know is that I think it's going to be Tuesday morning. We are launching a supplementary piece from our Beyond Capacity reports that's specifically looking at some of the reasons principals are being told that AWS applications are being declined, despite the fact that in the 2025 learning support budget, AWS was meant to be fixed. And so that should be available first thing Tuesday morning.
Excellent. And that's a stunning report. And we had the follow-up report, and this will be a supplementary coming out this week. We have run over our 30 minutes, so we apologise for that. Thank you for those who have stayed tuned in. Until next time, have a great week.
Thank you.
Happy week 9. Woo!
Yeah.